Hey everyone, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven. This is 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar buying, selling, trading, modding, fixing, breaking, reviewing, playing. Did I leave something out again?
No, I think you got it. Podcast. That was so corny. We're joined by a special guest this week, Dan, famously from the Flophouse podcast, a podcast that I've been listening to since before I've been podcasting.
I've been listening to since last week.
We got both ends of the spectrum. That's great.
Yeah.
I think that you're stretching the definition of famously, but I appreciate it.
Well, to me, like any podcast that I listen to and had never talked to someone from it before, I'm like, oh man, they're a big podcast.
Yeah.
And I feel intimidated, but
I mean, that was definitely the way that like I felt. I mean, before I got any sort of like professional job, you know, like I would watch hi, I'm Dan McCoy. I write for the Daily Show during the day and I do a podcast. Before I got that job, I was like so in awe of anyone who like did that sort of thing. And then I went there and like as my co-host Elliot, who was there before me, told me, no. Like these people are, if anything, less functional than most of the people that you meet in day-to-day life. So, and it was true. You know, Jon Stewart was a great man who also wore the same waffle print shirt and khakis every day to the office. So,
well, I one time went to a taping of The Price is Right. And I do some work in video production and stuff like that, so I know kind of what goes on behind the scenes. But it was funny to be somewhere where, you know, all this big, you know, like lights and TV and everything's happening, and then you look at the crew, and it's like running shorts and tank tops and like backwards baseball hats and stuff, and like, yeah, this is their everyday job, and they're pretty blue collar about this.
And they could not care less. They. I mean, that's the funny thing is, I think that consistently at the show, the thing I've noticed is that if anything, the talent is drawn to the crew much more than they are to anyone who works on the writing staff, because they're like, okay, these people do not care who I am at all.
Right.
So I can have like a real relationship with them.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So anyways,
Yeah.
we'll get into your backstory more after we do this first ad. We've got a guitar ad to talk about here because that's what we do on this podcast sometimes. Anyways, this was sent to us by Brian Dean.
Yep. This is a custom build, apparently, that this seller had made for a cost of £1,250. It's a very heavy guitar. It's a brand new guitar. Sounds amazing. Looks incredible. Jumbo frets. Absolutely great neck. Sounds incredible. Pickup combination is great. Something Telecaster.
You don't have to read the whole thing. Just read the interesting bits.
The neck is stuff. Some other parts. They actually do not. Do they even mention this paint job at all?
No, at no point in the description do they mention, you know, the contents of the paint job, just that it has a paint job. The interesting parts are that the body of the guitar is made out of a 150-year-old piece of church pew.
Yeah. So the one thing that they do mention, sort of referencing, so what you're looking at here is a TinTin Telecaster.
Yeah.
And they do mention that they had to move the location of the knobs so it didn't cover the dog. Does the dog have a name?
Yeah, Well, the dog does have a name. The dog has a name. It's called, the dog is Snowy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I pored over this ad looking for clues to what the situation might be. Because here's the thing. The guy says he's selling this guitar because they're moving, they need to downsize. But also this guitar is supposedly, this is a custom-made guitar that is brand new.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a very confusing scenario to me because like my first thought was, okay, well, there's something tragic going on here because no one orders a custom 1010 guitar made out of old church pew wood and then sells it new because they're moving. But then on the other hand, they don't know that the dog's name is Snowy. So who orders this guitar without knowing
Right.
one of the major Tintin characters' names.
No, it's totally bizarre, and really in reality, all that fluff, all that stuff that they wrote is just code for, I don't actually like it and I want to get rid of it. Because it's probably, it is custom, but it sounded like the neck is a parts neck that they had their luthier friend refret. But oftentimes with these parts guitars, they just don't actually feel that great. They don't actually play that great because they're a one-off, and it actually turns out that factory produced things in this case like represent a more consistent result. I mean, there's high-end builders out there that make really great one-off stuff, but I don't think that's the case here. I just think it's wild that to me the most interesting part of it is that it's made out of a 150-year-old piece of church pew. But it's completely covered up by this painting, and that the art is.
Well, you do get a bit of texture though. Like if you look at where the light is hitting it, you see it's got those cracks in it, and I don't know whether I assume that's because of the church pew. It makes it look like sort of an old Renaissance painting or whatever, where the oil paint itself has started to crack a bit.
And you can see on the back there's some kind of shape in here that looks like maybe that's where like the armrest was going into the wood or something like that, and they left that. You can tell that it's a high character piece of wood that's been painted over. And if this guy loves TinTin, why isn't there more about that in the ad description? And if he loves TinTin that much, why would you cover up something that sounds like a really cool piece of wood that probably would have looked really neat left in a fairly raw state? The fact that the ad doesn't talk about the art at all is baffling to me, because the art's actually really good.
This is so TinTin's I know they've made a weird 3D movie thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's a comic book.
Yeah, so is it a comic book? It's like a 100-year-old comic.
It's a Belgian comic. It's by an artist named Hergé, who has a very clean line style that you see here, and it's about a boy reporter who is sort of a globe-trotting solver of mysteries and righter of wrongs. There's a lot of, as you might expect, because it's a comic of the period that is globe-trotting, a lot of weird racial stuff that doesn't necessarily hold up great today, but it's a good comic if you are able to look past that. And I liked the movie quite a bit. It's just it's very weird. Like something does not add up about the story, and I feel like we need to...
the price is absolutely bonkers.
What this guitar is for is for somebody to try to sell at a Comic-Con, but they're looking for that very specific lumbersexual to sell it to.
Are you lumbersexual and also love TinTin? The Venn diagram is very tight on this one.
It's like the Venn diagram is the dude who commissioned this and like 3 other people who probably aren't at Comic-Con.
So Dan, are you pretty familiar with TinTin outside of the recent movie?
I wouldn't say after I saw the movie, I got curious about TinTin. I picked up a few old books. I enjoyed them. I didn't continue reading them because I got the impression they're all probably pretty much like what I read.
Right.
And I didn't love it so much that I just needed to keep going. But I will admit, I know more about TinTin probably than I do about the ins and outs of like the structure and electronics that go into a guitar, because you invited me to be on the show because you found out that I play guitar, and I do, but not well. I plateaued at like pretty good strumming. Like I'm not someone who would embarrass you if they took out a guitar at a party. But I also don't really understand any theory beyond like, if I move bar chords around the same structures apply at different points in the neck. I mean, that's about as far as I ever got. So.
I feel very seen right now.
Oh yeah.
No, we're admittedly not amazing guitarists over here. I hit you up because I watched I heard you on your podcast mention that you played the Monster Mash in a video, and I went and looked it up, and like there he is playing the Monster Mash, and it sounded fine to me.
Thank you.
Now, did he?
Thank you. I recently got a new guitar that I had been playing on the same old acoustic since I was 17, and here in quarantine, I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll get something new finally, and I got a Newporter, a Fender Newporter acoustic electric, and it really makes such a crazy difference what the action is like, because I had this old guitar that, it sounds good because the wood is old, it sounds nice, but the action is so painful.
Yeah. What was the make of your first guitar, of your previous guitar?
It's a Yamaha. Yeah. It was a good guitar, but it's a lot more fun, I think. I mean, it might just be the newness, I don't know, but also the fact that I'm not inflicting pain on my fingers when I...
Oh, absolutely. There's something about that, though, like having something new and exciting, but I do got to say, those Fender Newporters are pretty. I love anytime there's like the matching headstock thing, and they do that on there, and it's pretty great looking. So anyways, back to TinTin.
Sure.
It sounds like you know slightly more about TinTin than I do. I literally I watched the movie and I thought I had like a vague idea of what the character was. I assumed TinTin was like a child. And then starting into the movie, I was like, no, I think this is like a young adult. And like looking him up, it sounds like he could be anywhere between like 15 and 22. It's kind of ambiguous, but it's a much more mature character than I realized. Like he handles guns and stuff. He goes around shooting at people.
Yeah, but you got to understand, in the old days, everyone had a gun.
Yeah.
You look at old
guns.
Mickey Mouse cartoons, and Mickey is like pulling a gun on Peg Leg Pete. And
Right.
You're like, what?
And there's a bunch of old Looney Tunes cartoons where like Daffy Duck commits suicide over and over again and stuff like that. Yeah. But
I'm just noticing, you're talking about this, and now you're describing a orange-haired fellow
here we go.
who has a white creature following him around that probably responds very much to a dog whistle.
oh my gosh, here we go.
Satire.
We're going there.
I like it.
All right, I'm done. We're back. We're back.
My wonder on this character is like, because I always assumed like, oh, this is like a Johnny Quest type character. Like this is a really young adventurer who's, generally an innocent who finds himself in, dangerous situations. And it seems like he's more of a full-on Indiana Jones type character. Like he's in the thick of it. He is like, he's involved in, the action in a different way than you'd expect like a child detective to be. Like he's a young adult detective.
I think that's true to some degree. Like I remember coming out of the Tintin movie that Steven Spielberg directed and thinking like, oh, well, that's a better Indiana Jones movie than the last Indiana Jones movie he made. But at the same time, I do think that he has a little bit of that kid. Like, Tintin doesn't have a lot of personality beyond being kind of that Boy Scout archetype of like, he just needs to get to the heart of the story.
Yeah. So my wonder in that direction, my thought is, he's not really a familiar character too much in the States, but what if TinTin is considered more of like a badass character across the pond, and like this is more of a statement to put him on a guitar, like, oh, here he is, motherfucking TinTin.
You think it's really
the boy with the gun. The young assassin TinTin.
I mean, you look at his hair, I guess.
Yeah,
maybe
he's got this like he's got this whole like John Wick vibe on this guitar. Like he's walking around like he's ready to enact some revenge on someone in a shipyard too.
It's a beautiful guitar. I have to say, I did read it wondering, but does it sound good? And it sounds like, from what you were saying,
probably,
in so much as you seem to know more about this, like it probably doesn't.
It probably sounds like every other electric guitar.
Yeah,
it's got a bunch of parts. The parts are they're replacement level parts. You know,
right.
they're nothing special. They're not fancy.
The pickups list was like, oh yeah, you just had stuff laying around. Like none of it. Like one of the pickups is from an Epiphone, which is a budget line underneath the Gibson brand.
They're all. I'm pretty sure they're all budget.
Now I feel very insulted because that is the electric guitar I have.
You have a Gibson.
There's an Epiphone.
Oh, you have an Epiphone.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. We love budget stuff around here. I'm a big fan of Squire, which is Fender's sub brand.
I mean, honestly, at the level I play guitar, anything else would be a waste.
So anyways,
like anything else would be like I would be like the rich guy in a movie who's like, you know, like driving a fancy car and Vin Diesel's mad at him because, you know, I'm doing it wrong.
Right. So what do you think, Steve? What do you think the price should be on this? And then we'll move on to the rest of the show. It's in pounds, though. We don't really know, you know.
So he paid like
international
he says he paid
weights.
like $1,250 on this, right?
Well, yeah, that's what you're going to do when you hire someone to build something.
Which I want to say is like nearing $2,000.
Yeah,
Which I just can't like. I can't. I guess maybe like the body is old wood and it's a refin, and so you're kind of. I just can't get to that number
because it's parts. Like it's just got to be the price of any parts guitar. Like my gut says nothing over $350 American.
Yeah, I was gonna go maybe a little higher because the quality of the art looks. But
if you're selling it on quality of the art, then you're selling it to an art collector.
Sure. Well, you're
selling not a guitar collector.
You're selling it to the Venn diagram.
Right. Which that person doesn't exist.
Now, do you think it's possible that this guy has made up his luthier, and that this is a guitar that he has made?
It's possible
for sale. Possible. Like it's a flashy looking guitar that he made out of parts.
Well, part of my thought was he didn't name the luthier, which means if it's not him, it's already nobody. So it's like if it was someone worth collecting, then he would name that person. I suspect his luthier is just his local guitar tech, which is fine.
Right.
Which is totally fine, but it's not like it's gonna carry any provenance and be like, oh, hey, here's the collector's piece you've been looking for or whatever, or here's the thing that is built to a certain quality. Is built by someone no one knows, to the point that he doesn't even mention him. So it's like the build of it doesn't even matter. It really just becomes a matter of a collection of parts at a certain point. And there's just that's a problem when you go custom, especially this custom, is that you really limit the resale value of it. And if this is everything that that individual person loves in a guitar, again, going back to what you were saying in the beginning, why is he selling it? Like just because he's moving, it doesn't make any sense.
My guess is he got this guitar and he's moving because whoever he lives, like basically either he's not moving, he's being evicted.
Okay.
And he needs to sell this guitar to afford the next place that he will live.
No, honestly, I did not want to get into the probable tragedy that underlies this ad.
Well, I
agree with you. There's some sort of financial difficulty that is motivating this.
Or he's a criminal who's stolen this guitar and he needs to unload it. He needs to unload it before a small child detective finds him.
Yes, he's a criminal who stole this guitar, knows not the name of the dog, but somehow knows the brand of all of the parts in the guitar.
Yeah. Well, a thief can
and
still
is trying
do guitars.
To fence it on eBay.
that old grift.
A very distinctive guitar.
Oh man. So now we can talk more about you. Now that we got that out of the way. So how did you get started in guitar? When did you start? Like, what's your whole story?
There was a guitar that existed in we had this big closet above our stairs in my house growing up in Central Illinois, and it had kind of a long it went really deep because it was above these stairs, and it had this long upper shelf, and I found a guitar back there. Like, mostly it was just hats were up there, but
Right.
also there was a guitar.
But you were looking for the
I
hats.
Yeah. Well, it's just been sitting there. Like, I'd seen it, but no one, like, I don't know whose it was. I guess it was my dad's. No one seemed to ever touch it. The strings were God knows how old and dead. I took it down. I got it. I'm sure it was wildly out of tune, but, you know, close enough that I didn't notice at that point in my guitar playing career. And I had seen guitar diagrams above, like, my parents had, you know, piano music lying around with the chord diagrams above it, and I suddenly, you know, without anyone telling me how these things work, had a flash of intuition. Oh, those have to match up to fingering positions on a guitar. Like, that's what that is. Like,
Nice.
I can figure this out. And so just based on that, I took this old guitar down. I played a lot on it. Just, you know, playing through whatever my parents had around the house in terms of sheet music, which was, I'm sure, mostly show tunes.
Nice.
For Broadway shows. And my folks noticed that I kept playing on this old, terrible guitar with dead strings, out of tune, and on my 17th birthday, they got me a used guitar, which, you know, I'm sure they got for like $150 somewhere. And I played that, and like I said earlier, I banged away at it. I learned a lot of chords. There's still a bunch of I call them jazz chords because that is my way of shooing them away from my life. Like, there are these chords that I don't really bother with a lot of the time. I will be at Ultimate Guitar Tabs and I'll be like, no, my friend. Like, they have all the different, like, versions of the chord that you can scroll through. I'm like, why did you give me this one first when there's like a power chord version of this down the line? You know, like, that's where I am as a guitar player. I never learned, like, scales or whatnot, but I'm okay at rhythm.
I thought you did great on the Monster Mash, and I'm, you know...
Oh, thank you.
I don't want to call myself a connoisseur, but I'm a longtime lover of the Monster Mash. Actually, I was thinking about it earlier today, and the Monster Mash is the one and only song that I tried to call into a radio station to request when I was a child.
Oh my gosh.
And that experience with the radio station made me realize how awful radio stations are, and request lines aren't actually a thing.
Did you, like, request it in February?
Yeah, that's the...
I might have.
It's like, oh, hey, it's December 24th here, and we're doing 24-hour Christmas music. Hi, this is Ryan Burke.
I want to hear the Monster Mash.
Could you guys play the Monster Mash, please?
That is one of my favorite Simpsons gags, though, when the one DJ accidentally plays the Monster Mash on Valentine's Day at the beginning of the episode, and then he does it again at the end on President's Day.
You know, it works. It works for all holidays. But I'm going to play it at Thanksgiving coming up for sure.
Nice.
You know, what you're talking about, like figuring out what chords work for you and which chords you just don't want to deal with at the time. Like, this is what we all do. Like I was just like, I got sent a magazine. I was looking through it, and at the back of it, it was like, oh, check out John Lennon's chords, like the chords John Lennon used to use. And I was looking at it, it's like he just left stuff out. Like, he just didn't want to play the full thing. Like, and you know, that's how you land on, you know, your own style, your own way of doing things, your own sound or whatever. It's just not wanting to do the thing that feels bad.
Yeah, there's certain contortions that I just don't want my hand to do. I don't care. It does My girlfriend Audrey is a beautiful singer, and she loves to sing, and we haven't been able, obviously, no one has. Who knows if it'll ever come back again. We haven't been able to do karaoke, which we both love to do together. So once I got this guitar, she'll want to sing with me. And her references for songs are different than my references to songs, so she'll call out things that like I kind of have to know, and then I'll look at the chords involved, and I'm like, oh god. Not only do I not know well what the rhythm I'm aiming at is versus the lyrics, I have to deal with these. Like many times I'm like, can we not do this?
Right. Like, I don't understand what a diminished chord is, and I don't understand why this one's diminished 4 times. Can we please do something else?
That's where you just got to go fall back on the old, was it like the old, I'm going to use words.
Yes, you are.
It's like the 1-6-5-4 pattern or whatever, where you're just like, oh, this is Wonderwall. I mean, no. Oh, you don't know Wonderwall? I mean, this is Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I mean, oh no, this is Story of a Girl. Like, it's 300 different pop songs. It's the same chord pattern with slightly different rhythmic variations.
Yeah.
So once you got yourself a functioning guitar from your parents, like, what kind of music did you gravitate towards? Like, what did you want to play?
Jeez. I mean, like, the thing is, when I grew up, my parents listened to public radio most of the time. They would just put on whatever classical music was on the radio. They had a bunch of LPs, and they were mostly like older, pleasant jazz, like Oscar Peterson or Dave Brubeck, and then a bunch of show tunes. So it's not like pop music I came to through my brothers, and I came to it late. And it took me a while to figure out what I liked. Like, I am not a particular Pink Floyd person, although now that I'm in quarantine and I've been having more pot to calm myself down, I suddenly find myself understanding it. But like, one of my first songs I learned to play was Wish You Were Here, because kind of the opening fill is easy enough to figure out, and then you feel cool because you're not just playing a chord,
Right.
But no, I will look up whatever it is that I like and see what the intersection is between what I like and what I can play and what sounds good when I play it. Like, and it can be something like Your Love by The Outfield, which is like, I think I can nail pretty well. Or something sort of unexpected, like I like to play Hold On by Nico Case. And, kind of maybe an unusual choice for bearded 42-year-old me, but I really have a lot of fun playing it.
Anything you do as a bearded 42-year-old and bearded middle-aged man is weird to someone, is what I've discovered.
Yeah, no, I walk through my day every day being like, please don't let me be creepy somehow. I just don't want to do it. I'm not trying.
I'm only 2 years behind you, and I've been in that territory for a while. Like, everything I do now is just like a weird middle-aged man thing. It's like none of this is cool. None of this makes sense. Like, but it's kind of freeing. It's kind of like, I just do it because it's what I want to do.
Well, it's like at best it is freeing. At best it is me walking down the hall with my pot belly nude, but wearing like slippers, and not caring that I look like such a doofus. But at worst, it is like, I don't know. I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable accidentally. Like, I just don't want to do something wrong.
Right.
I want everyone to be happy.
My experience so far in all this pandemic stuff, it sounds like you're a bit introverted, and I tend to be. I honestly hope certain things never go back. I've been loving grocery stores. I've been loving like everyone's 6 feet apart. I've been loving like the fact that people almost don't even make eye contact anymore, and it's a lot better for me going out most of the time.
See,
I mean, my day-to-day life, if movie theaters were open and people weren't dying, this would be like a paradise.
Right. Finally, people are giving us space, you know? Okay, what's your take, Steve?
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, I'm in this awkward space where, like, I'm an antisocial extrovert. So I love not having to really acknowledge people in the grocery store, but also I'm like,
you wish you could talk to
everybody?
You wish you could talk to them about baseball loudly.
That's true. The sports season was just like weird this year. So weird.
I have no idea.
I know. Ryan has a fantasy high diving team. So.
That's an actual joke. Like I don't actually have that.
No, it's just it's been a weird year, and it's weird that it's trying to think. I like even think about like going out of town. It's like, what are the logistics for this? Can I go to an Airbnb? Did they bleach everything after the last person stayed here?
I mean, I had that issue. I, as a New Yorker, haven't driven in a serious way for nigh on 17 years now. And I was a pretty good driver before, but that skill has just gone out of my repertoire. Like, I haven't had to use it.
And even if you did, you'd be driving the way people drove 17 years ago. You're not up on the hottest new driving fads.
Yeah, the new trends in driving with, I don't know, tire warmers.
It's all about knowing how to drive while texting now. So if you don't have that skill, you're not going to cut it.
Yeah, but like we wanted to go upstate. We wanted to take a little time out of the city for we did this a month ago, the first time since March that we're anywhere other than Brooklyn, and we had to get our friends. We're like, okay, we are going to form a pod. We trust you. You guys are as obsessed with health as we are in terms of like the pandemic, not in general health. I'm terrible with that. I eat whatever, drink whatever. But with the pandemic, so we formed our pod and like let them drive us upstate. But like it takes so much planning. Like you have to figure out what you're willing to risk all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's wild. I've got young kids. Steve has young kids, and like dealing with all that is crazy. Guitar stuff again. Going back to guitar stuff. What was your shopping situation like when you started looking at the Newport? Because it sounded like you've been kind of a one guitar guy for a long time, and then pandemic hits, and you're like, I want something fresh. Like, how did you go about that? Was it all online, or did you have any idea what you were looking for?
Well, I did. I do have, like I said, I had an acoustic, and then about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I bought an electric guitar, but I rarely play it just because, I'm in an apartment. I don't want anyone to be annoyed at me. And like, I know I can play it with like headphones on, but that feels weird. It just doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know. So that's for some, I don't know, imagined future where I have a garage, I guess. But as to the new one, this is true. I just had a dream one day that I bought a new guitar. And I woke up and I was like, well, just for fun, let's look at what guitars exist in the world. Like, okay, I had this dream. Let's just look.
I mean, it's a dream, right? Might as well explore it.
Yeah, I didn't give it like several days of research or anything, but I did go through several sort of articles I found from guitar sources being like, okay, well, what are the top acoustic electric guitars in different price ranges? And, ultimately I just sort of liked the look of the Newporter and what was being said about it. I didn't think I needed something that was genuinely expensive or something. I just I got something pretty good, something mid-range that was like, I thought I would be happy with, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely one of those guitars where like you can decorate your house with it when you're not playing it. It's pretty. Is it like red metallic? I haven't seen them in person yet.
Yeah, I have the red one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll look nice laying around the house when you're not playing it. Like, they're not just like instruments where you have to dedicate your life to playing them. They're also, pretty objects that you can leave around and stuff like that. So
it's true.
There's nothing wrong with shopping with your eyes, is what I say.
Yeah. It is amazing. We talked about the action before. It is amazing what action can do and also what distortion can do for improving your playing.
Yeah. Or hiding your playing.
Like some you're like, I am really good at this.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fuzz user, and fuzz is like the most extreme distortion you can do basically, and it hides everything. It's beautiful. It's like, oh, no one can hear the bad stuff I'm doing now. It's just a wall of static.
It's like you get the general idea of what's going on.
See, I'm playing something. See, Steve, we totally forgot to do our first sponsors. So should we just bang them all out right now?
Just bang it out.
All right, we're gonna do our sponsor spot. Make some money. What's the one you want to do first?
Let's do Chase Bliss.
All right, Chase Bliss first.
This first sponsor spot is Chase Bliss Audio. Chase your bliss with Chase Bliss Audio. I don't know why I said it like that.
Neither do I.
The digital brain and analog heart. You know what?
Let's talk about the new thing.
This is an ad spot. They just released 1,000 units of the Bliss Factory. It's a collaboration between Chase Bliss Audio and ZVEX. So it's like we're doing a freebie for ZVEX here. There you go, Zach.
Yeah.
How about that? But they did the Bliss Factory. It's a Chase Bliss take basically on the classic ZVEX Fuzz Factory.
And it sold out in like 2 minutes.
In like 2 minutes. And but it stuck around long enough that I saw it online and I went, $400. That's a lot of money. Yeah. And then afterwards I was like, the freaking Fuzz Factory by itself is $330 or whatever, like $300. I'm like, why did I not buy this? Why? Because I'm an idiot. That's why.
You didn't buy it because everyone else bought 3 of them and now they're scalping them. But anyways, Joel might make another run of these things. They look wild. The Fuzz Factory is one of the most famous fuzzes on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's badly needed presets for its entire life. And if I know Chase Bliss, it's packed full of presets now.
Go check out all the other stuff they have on their site, though, too.
Go follow Chase Bliss on every social media thing. So if this thing becomes available again, you can snatch
You'll know right away
in the first 3 minutes, and then it'll be gone again.
Yeah.
Our next sponsor is Big Ear Pedals.
Yeah, Big Ear Pedals. They make something Ryan's going to grab right now. Are you going to grab the Albie?
I'm going to grab the Albie.
Ryan's grabbing the Albie. The Albie is a multi-effect. I never know what to say. It's a multi-effect, but it's like a preset multi-effect. But unlike, you buy your Line 6 Spider, right? I'm going to say this.
Right.
You can buy your Line 6 Spider. All of those settings, they have all these preset settings. They're all trash. The difference between the Line 6 Spider and this pedal is all of these presets where, like, Grant actually knew what he was doing.
Here's how I describe it. This is a curated multi-effect pedal. The multi-effects are already dialed in. There's one selector knob to select between 8 different presets right there, and then one knob just to turn the mix up and down. There's no fudging around with deep dives into submenus and trying to make it sound just right. You let Grant Wilson over at Big Ear Pedals figure all that out for you. It's simple, it's easy, it'll get you new wave sounds really, really quick. It's cool. It's the Albie. Go check it out. Yep. So huge thanks to Chase Bliss Audio and Big Ear Pedals for once again sponsoring the episode. And that's how you make money on a guitar podcast.
That and Patreon.
That and Patreon.
We'll do that later.
So then the next just kind of general, like I haven't spent enough time thinking about this, but you're a movie podcast guy, Dan. I don't know if you know that.
That's true.
So I thought it would be fun to talk about like favorite, least favorite, notable kind of like music movies. Like what do you think of when you think of like
oh boy,
a good or bad music movie?
Oh dear. I mean, like, at the risk of angering my co-host Stuart, who believes that I talk about this movie every week. I mean, my favorite concert movie is Stop Making Sense, because my favorite band is Talking Heads, and American Utopia, which came out on HBO Max recently, also excellent.
I heard about both of these things this past week.
What? Sorry?
I heard about both of these things this past week while listening to your show. So Stuart may have a point.
Well,
I thought you were going to bring up the Castle Creep.
I just saw it recently. I like movies, though. I mean, outside of concert films, I like movies that sort of show the joy of making music, like both the reasons people do it that aren't strictly speaking musical, like status or trying to attract people that you want to attract, like that stuff, and then also the way that they come maybe to enjoy the music for its own sake, something like The Commitments or Sing Street, like that are very kind of the joy of, being in a band, which is something that I've never experienced. I've just played in my home. But,
have you ever wanted
those.
Have you ever wanted to play in a band or play with other musicians in that sort of way?
I have. I think it would be fun. The problem is, like, I am not good enough to jam. I can't do that. And the people who want to jam with me are usually even worse than I am. So I have played, like, there have been times when I've played with people who are better than me, who know how to make me look good, which is excellent. It's like, I am divorced, but at my wedding, people in her family played music, and I played music with them, and they were all talented enough that I felt great.
Right.
Like, it's a rush when like, you're playing with people who know what they're doing.
Oh, totally.
I mean, it's similar to when I came to New York trying to do comedy, I did improv with a bunch of people who were also trying to sort of come up in comedy, and we're all like so like in our head about it and worried, and it wasn't funny because we're all trying so hard to be funny. And then after I got a job in comedy, there was a show at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, which is, dearly departed from COVID, as many things are. But there was a show where Daily Show people did improv with one another. And even though I hadn't done it steadily for years and years and years, I was so much better and I had so much more fun because it was this case where I'm like, I know that everyone around me, whether or not they're trained in improv, is funny. Like, I know that they're all funny. I trust them to have my back, and I can just get up there and mess around and like, And I think that that's the beauty of like music too. Like if you
Absolutely.
have that.
Yeah. Man, my mind just went blank on that one. You got anything, Steve? No.
I'm just trying to think about kind of that intersection of like, I always get in situations where if I'm playing with someone who's like, or playing with a group of musicians who's better than me, I'll be like, oh man, this is really cool. This is a lot of fun. And I'll be in that space for about a minute, and then I'll start to zone out. And then I catch myself and start like getting really anxious, like, oh God, they're all so good. I gotta focus. I gotta focus.
Yeah. I was thinking about this is why my mind went blank. I was thinking about my band that barely exists anymore. But I'm technically like the leader of the band, technically like the songwriter and like the concept guy behind it, easily the least talented guy in the band. And the rest of the band 100% carries me through a set when we play. Like, I'm just this sloppy mess, but the bassist is just like precision tight. my rhythm guitarist has a musical mind like I'll never have, and whoever happens to be drumming, like drummers are just completely under appreciated because they are like surgeons themselves in the way they hold a band together, and they all exist so that I can just slop my nonsense on top of it, But
I mean, like that's.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that's like. I mean, it depends on what you do it for too, because like knowing that I'm never gonna be like truly good at it, I just do it for my own like personal joy. Now that Audrey has been like singing with me, she's a great singer, as I said before, and she wants to like practice it and hone it, and like she points out that that my tempo is off. She'll be like, all right, can't you hear that? Like you're like, it is changing. Like she like does a metronome for me. I'm like, okay, yeah. And in my mind, I'm just like, hey man, I'm just doing this for fun.
Right.
But like, you want me to practice? But it's true. Like, I mean, she's right. I wonder if I had actual like a drummer behind me who I could hear would keep me going. But like I'm so used to just doing it as a way that I can like sing alone in a room, and if I want to change the tempo I can because I'm feeling my own thing. But if you actually put it to a metronome, I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's more guitarists than you realize. I think you probably represent the vast majority of guitarists throughout history in the world right now. Like that's where most of us live in this like, yeah, I play because I like to do it, and it's my fun, but I've not trained or anything like that. And I think that's something that's beautiful about the instrument, that it is so accessible to so many people, and it can be such a casual, accessible thing, especially like in the going back to the guitar you just bought, especially like in the price range. There's so many guitars out there that are just so affordable now. You don't have to take out a loan to buy a harp or something like that, or like have a billionaire in your life who hires you to play the violin that he invested in or something. Like it is a common instrument, and it can be for everyone. And I don't think there's any reason to feel like awkward or like, oh, I'm not very good or whatever. Like, you play guitar and you do it for fun. That's beautiful,
Yeah. No, it is. One reason I'm glad that I picked it back up in quarantine is I have always found I'm a moody person. I get frustrated easily. I get down. Like I might get anxious. I have discovered that it is one of those things that is both focused and automatic that allows you to like turn your brain off a little. I get the same feeling when I'm drawing, and is if you're not gonna meditate, it's the next best thing in terms of like improving my mood. If I feel down, I can bring it out, play for 30 minutes, and I'll feel better.
Going back to the movies thing, you were talking about. I think you were vaguely talking about like a good music movie makes you want to go play music, sort of thing, or it makes you want to go out and experience it to a certain level. Am I remembering that right? It was a while ago we were on that.
I mean, I'm not sure if I said that, but I agree with it.
Yeah. I've been sitting here thinking about it since whatever you said that triggered that in my head, and like I think there's a lot to that. Like it's kind of like video game movies, or like there's a lot of video game movies that are just like, oh, here's the movie version of a video game, and it's just kind of like, yeah, I played the video game, and this is kind of it. Like the successful video game movies that actually mean things to people aren't actually about a specific video game. It's about like the experience that you have playing the video game, and kind of like the immersive world. Like Tron is like a really successful at being a video game movie without being like, oh, here's a video game. And I think music movies are kind of the same thing, where it's like, it doesn't have to be about a band. It doesn't have to be about specific music. But if it reminds you of the experience of playing music and kind of that magical moment you get when you're playing with other people, or, you know, basically like you were just describing, like meditating while you're playing, like it's the thing that you do for your happiness. Like, I think that is like a powerful element to a music movie.
Yeah, I think that I think that off of what you're saying, the ones that I respond to are ones that focus on either the like literal process of what is happening, like are very process focused about like what music is, what playing together is, or are very focused on like the emotion of playing music. Because like oh geez, it's flown right out of my brain. No, I remember. Audrey showed me Pen 15, like a scene from it, because she knew that I did a lot of like theater in high school and college, and there's a lot of theater stuff in the second season of this show, and she showed me some of it, and she kept asking me, like, is this what it was like? Is this what it was like? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Like, this is heightened. It's crazy. It is the comedy version of it, but this is what it's like. Yes, there was this division between the actors and the tech people, and this is what it was like to do a cue to cue like rehearsal, and like you were annoyed that you didn't get to act, and they were annoyed because they just wanted to do their text. Like this, like it was all evocative of that, and I liked it because it was processed. And I think also, you know, you can tell if a movie that is a music movie is made by someone who has done anything with music, rather, or whether it's just sort of a screenplay writer, a screenwriter who is like, I want to write a music movie,
right,
and doesn't really, you know, as a lazy writer myself, I understand how it is. You just like think about like what it might be like, and then you write it rather than knowing, which is the important thing.
Right. I feel like you're describing Rockstar right now. Where it's like the you know, the VH1 viewers idea of what a music movie should be. One that I think so. That always pops out in my head, and Steve and I are big fans. Like I think that Bill and Ted really captures like the heart and soul of what a lot of like young musicians go through. Especially the first movie, where it's like two guys in a garage that just objectively suck. Like they're awful. But that experience of being loud and being together has put like humongous stars in their eyes, and like, oh, we're going to make a music video with Eddie Van Halen. And then they find out, oh, we're going to, you know, save the future, save the world, and align the planets. And like that experience, even though it's, you know, blown up to be something pretty comical and pretty kind of out there, I think that's what a lot of people go through when they start playing music, and it like clicks for them, like that feeling of like, I'm on the edge of greatness, and it doesn't matter that I suck now, because I know where I'm going to end up. I think there's something so warm and like spiritually powerful about the heart and soul of those movies, just in that kind of common thread going through them. So,
and you know, I can certainly sympathize with their desire to be rock stars without actually practicing.
Another one that's popping in my head now, like I love the band scenes from Miami Connection. Have you seen Miami Connection?
I've seen Miami Connection.
I've seen it.
Yeah. That movie is so sincere in everything that it does, even though like it's objectively just a corny like B movie.
Oh, okay.
You've got to watch it sometime, Steve. But like there's something about just the joy coming through that movie and the absurdity of the band scenes that makes me want to like have a band, you know, and want to go play live music, and then like get in a fictitious like fight with a rival band for some reason. Like it's all nonsense. It doesn't have anything to do with any sort of reality, but there's something about the joy of that movie that like makes me feel like it's a good music movie.
I mean, even like my brother said something to me that has always stuck with me, where he's just like, there are people out there, like, you may have a lot of talents. There are people out there who are super talented at music, like just like have it in their bones and have the passion to develop that as far as it can go. And you and I are not like that. He said to me, like, we, like, this feels like a curse, but he's like, like, we, like, have an appreciation for it, have a lot of fun with it, like, maybe aren't gonna, like, ever hit that, but that's okay. Like, we have fun with it, and what a not amazing thing to say. What a not like insightful thing to say about music. But you know what, guys? It's pretty fun.
It's fun.
Like, people enjoy it. No, but because like we watch my friends and I watch bad movies over the internet during this pandemic time, and like it's a round robin thing. And whenever a music movie comes up or a dance movie comes up, like, even if the movie itself is objectively bad, you can feel in the chat that everyone actually loves it, because you can't, like there's this inherent quality to the music and the dancing that, like, makes you love it, whether or not, like, the movie can suck. Who cares?
Right.
Sounds like
it's like a Godzilla movie. You don't care that the Godzilla movie isn't that good. You want to see Godzilla stomp on things, and you're happy.
Mm-hmm. I want to see him do the little dance. And
sounds like you guys are big fans of Step Up 2, The Streets.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. This whole thinking about music and the music movies that have music in it. Well, a lot of movies have music in it.
Most of them do.
But it got me thinking about. It got me thinking about movies where, like, music is a subplot, and it works in extremely, like, functional ways that build the story. So I just
he's gonna talk about Frozen.
Yeah, Ryan, you gotta let this one go, man. Just let it go. No, I watched Stranger Than Fiction the other day, like a couple weeks ago. It's on Netflix. Go watch it on Netflix, kid. I don't know. But there's this whole scene where, like, Will Ferrell is in this yes man kind of mode because he thinks he's going to die, and now his story is being driven by forces outside of his control, but he decides he's going to do the things that are things that accountants don't do, like learn guitar. And there's this whole scene, which I remember when I first saw this movie, thinking it was really funny, where he's in the music store and they're describing, like, all of these guitars, and it's like, a Telecaster, twangy country guitar, Les Paul, classic dad rock guitar, and Flying V, like, that's way too metal for an accountant. And I remember thinking, when I first saw this movie, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, that's right, all those guitars are just like that. And watching it now, I'm going, what? But none of that being the point. The breakthrough.
Where are you going with this?
The whole breakthrough in this movie is when he goes to Jake Gyllenhaal's sister's house. Maggie Gyllenhaal's house, and she has a guitar, and he's like, "Oh, do you play?" And she's like, "Oh, and he's like, "Oh yeah, whatever." And then she's cooking or whatever, as she does. And he sits down and he starts playing the song, and she comes in and she's like, "Oh, wow." Like, she has this moment where it's like, this is this beautiful thing. This guy who's learning guitar, and he's kind of a hack because he's learning, and everyone who's learning is a hack. That's just how it is. But we all go through that, and we all have had that moment, when you're playing, when somebody goes like, "Yeah, I know that song. Like, I know what you're playing right now. And you're playing it right. You're doing the thing that you set out to do."
Yeah.
And it's just like
That's a
this
good
magical moment. I had
It
that
took
with
you
that
about
movie.
15 minutes to get there, but it's a good moment.
So let me walk you through. Let me walk you through.
I was riveted. I don't know. I don't.
So now let's walk through the building up to the guitar part in Dan in Real Life. My other favorite guitar.
Or as I call it, pancake pillowhead.
So there's this guy and it's no.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Well, we've done about an hour here. Is there any final thoughts we want to have before we call it a show? I think we've done it. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
We've done it.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. Everyone listening right now, go subscribe to the Flophouse if you haven't already, and try out this little show he's on. They're trying it out, the Daily Show. We'll see how it does. You know, you're not on it. You write for it.
Yes. Well, occasionally you hear my voice doing a voiceover for something.
But it's been fantastic having you on here. It's weird for me hearing you interact with me when I've been listening to you for probably 8 years or something like that.
Thank you.
Did that cover it? Is there anything else you want to promote? Or
oh yeah.
No. I mean, the Flophouse podcast is the main thing. If you want to go to Dan K. McCoy, there's no way other to think of it than Dank McCoy on Twitter. That's where I am, and you can see the Twitter feed that so distressed my co-host Elliot Kalin with its dumb jokes that he and I did a case on Judge John Hodgman to resolve whether he could drag me on Twitter or not. So
that's beautiful.
That's the only other thing.
I haven't been up on Hodgman in a while, so I'll have to go try to find that one.
It's actually the bonus feed for Maximum Fun. I apologize if you were not if you're not a donor, but
you got me with the paywall.
But Hodgman ruled in my favor, so
nice.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, there you go. It's worth throwing some money at that to go listen to that then. Mm-hmm. Steve, do you have any housekeeping to do before we go?
You know what? I'm just going to keep it simple this week. If you want to support the show for as little as $1 or as much as $58,000, head on over to patreon.com. We now have annual subscriptions, patreon.com/60 Cycle Humcast, and we do the annual subscription thing.
There will be a link. Don't type in what Steve just said.
8%. That was the right place.
You said 60 twice.
Yeah, I said, because the first time I said like, the first time I was like 60. I was like, let me say this right. 60 Cycle Humcast. 60 Cycle Humcast.
It's okay.
You did it.
I don't like this tension.
All right. What about a song? Should we? What if we play you playing the Monster Mash? Because we usually play a song at the end. Are you fine with that?
I give you full permission. If you need a better version, I can send you one.
Yeah, send me that file when you send me this file tonight, and we'll put you playing the Monster Mash at the end of this, and I think that'll be a good button on the episode. All right, bye everyone. Stay grounded.
See ya.
I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from the slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, he did the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the Monster Mash from my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abode to catch a jolt from my electrodes. He did the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the Monster Mash. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker 5. He did the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. Is it the Monster Mash? Out from his coffin drags hoisted ring. Seems he was troubled by just one thing. He opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist?" And it's a graveyard smash. It's caught on in a flash. It's now the Monster Mash. Now everything's cool. Drax a part of the band. And my Monster Mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this math was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you. Then you can Monster Mash. And do my graveyard smash. You'll catch on in a flash. Then you can Monster Mash. Monster Mash out. Monster Mash out. Monster Mash out.